Hello and welcome to the Ophthalmic Referrals series. My name is Christian, I'm an optometrist and triager. The purpose of this series is to offer some helpful hints and tips to my optometry colleagues in primary care when making referrals on to the ophthalmologist. So this first talk in this series is going to cover the generic information that we should be including in all of our ophthalmology referrals. Just to let you know a little bit about myself, I've been working as an optometrist since 1999. I have some additional training in IP and glaucoma. And most importantly, in my work as an ophthalmic triager, I estimate I've read over 100,000 GOS18 referrals over the last 7 years. If you want to know more about me and my professional profile, please have a look on LinkedIn. So as I said, the aim is to provide some helpful hints and tips. And if these talks are well received, then I'd be happy to produce a short, maybe 4 or 5 minute talk to cover each of these ophthalmology subspecialties that you can see here. An important disclaimer, this is how I would go about referring these patients, and you must use your own professional judgment. You must follow the national and local guidelines, standards, protocols, pathways, and if you're unsure, then you should seek professional advice. So the first question to ask ourselves is, do we need to refer this patient? And in fact, in the context of this talk, we've already gone beyond that question because we've made the assumption that we are indeed referring the patient, and let's also assume that we have their consent for that referral to go ahead. But I've just included here some relevant guidance in helping you to decide whether or not you should be referring the patient in the first place. The first key piece really of generic information to include is to be able to identify the referrer, the GP and the patient. And it's surprising how few referrals actually include that level of detail whereby you can correctly identify those three individuals. As you know, the Opticians Act requires us by law to give the patient a written statement that we're referring them and the reason for that referral. If we then look into the College of Optometrists guidance for professional practice, it gives us some more guidance here. The referral should be clearly worded, it should include relevant details from the eye examination, the reason for the referral, images where appropriate, and the level of urgency. And they go on to say that you must refer patients with an appropriate level of urgency. So to conclude the talk, I'd like to offer some referral good practice tips. The first tip is to open your referral with a one-line summary and tentative diagnosis. For example, a routine referral to the glaucoma clinic for raised IOP, query OHT. With that one sentence, we all know where we stand, and arguably any more clinical data beyond that is going to be the icing on the cake. Do describe the key signs and symptoms, including the onset, the duration. And indeed, if a patient doesn't have any symptoms, then do note that they're asymptomatic in the referral, because that can help to lower the index of suspicion for the person who's receiving that referral in many cases. Don't use this as an opportunity to write long paragraphs of text about clinical information that may not be relevant to the reason you're actually referring this patient. Keep it concise, keep it focused. Do include supplementary data wherever possible. This could be a photograph of the front of the eye, the back of the eye, an OCT scan, a visual field plot, and even an Amsler grid potentially. Very helpful for those receiving the referral. Do specify the referral reason. Is it for medical retina? Is it for ocular plastics, for cornea, for glaucoma, and so on? And some of your patients will have more than one referral reason, so in that case you need to prioritise which you feel the main focus needs to be. You must specify an appropriate level of urgency. Now, these terms will mean different things to different people, so it's important that you're understood locally. In my experience, emergency tends to mean same day, next day. Rapid access is a reasonably new term, and it usually means care within a few days, certainly within a week. Urgent historically has meant care within 2 weeks, but now with NHS backlogs it could be 4 or 6 weeks potentially. and routine historically has meant care within 18 weeks. I would encourage you to avoid using the term as soon as possible. It is quite ambiguous, and you could argue that as soon as possible is tantamount to an emergency referral, because by definition that is as soon as possible. I'd really encourage you to type your referrals and submit them electronically. If locally commissioned forms have been introduced, then I'd encourage you to use those, and try to only use abbreviations which others will understand. So the College of Optometrists have quite a helpful list of abbreviations that you might want to review. If you are going to use a fax machine, it should be a last resort. The scanning glass should be kept nice and clean. Try and keep everything within the margins. Remember, if you use a highlighter pen, it can redact the text underneath it, and photos and OCT scans, when they pass through a fax machine, will normally come out pretty much entirely black on the other end, so it's not so helpful, unfortunately. And finally, if it isn't a referral, make it very clear this is for information only, no action required. So we've now covered the generic information to include in an ophthalmology referral. I hope you found that helpful, and next time we'll talk about glaucoma referrals. Thank you.